Levi here, the Outdoor Cowboy, and welcome back to the Outdoor Cowboy YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about some of the basics of bushcraft leatherwork. We're going to talk about why leatherwork can be an important bushcraft skill for when you're in the outdoors, the tools and skills you'll need to be able to do it, and some of the awesome things you can make. When we're doing leatherwork and making cool things, we're trying to make stitches like this in leather, not trying to get stitches in our hands. So let's get to the leatherwork and saddle up for the ride. All right, like I said, today we're gonna be talking about some bushcraft leather work. I've got some of my favorite things that I've made here out of leather. We got this axe sheath that we made in a previous video, and then my knife sheath that I made. And these have just worked super well for me when I'm in the outdoors. And leather work like this is just one of my favorite hobbies now. I love to do it. There's just endless possibilities of things you can make. So I wanted to make a video about it just because it's one of my favorite things. And I think it's a super important skill for when in the outdoors, or if you just want to make some of your own cool gear. And this is just going to be kind of a quick overview of the basics of leatherwork. There are so many aspects of leatherwork and ways you can do it and things you can make. And I want to go through a lot more of these in the future. There's a ton of things that I want to make in the future just to hold gear, different sheaths, different things like that. So there'll definitely be more videos in the future, along with some more forging videos. This knife is a knife that I forged out of a car leaf spring, and then I made this sheath for it. And there are a bunch of more projects exactly like this that I want to do, different shapes and sizes of knives and different kinds of sheaths. So there's definitely gonna be more videos in the future. So if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on awesome outdoor videos, and look forward to those videos in the future. And the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to leatherwork is kind of why leatherwork belongs in bushcraft and just why it's an important skill. And the first point is going to be that leather is just super durable. This knife sheath I have has just been on so many camping and survival trips and has just been really put through the paces. My knife has been in and out of here so many different times, and it's just held up super well. Leather can bend and stretch and pull, and it's just super strong. So it's just super awesome by itself. But then even comparing it to other examples, if we think about plastic or cloth, leather withstands abrasions and heat and just long-term outdoor use way better than any other material. So leather's just awesome because it's super durable. The next one goes along with leather being super durable, and that is that it is waterproof, which is just a super awesome characteristic. Whether it's in an example like these sheaths that are made not only to protect my tools, but also keep moisture off of them. Or if you make a pouch to hold some gear or a bag, anything like that, it's super awesome that water won't be able to get in. You can see that the sheath for my hatchet is just dirty and has taken a bunch of stuff. I'm pretty sure there's even some dried manure on there, but it just works super good. And in this case, it keeps my hatchet head super protected. So it's just awesome that it's durable and waterproof. The next thing is one of my favorite ones and why I think leatherwork is so fun. And that's just because it's so customizable. Here I've got just a giant roll of leather, which doesn't look like much and you can't really use this for much, but that exact roll of leather is what I made both these sheaths out of. So it can be shaped to fit anything, shaped to fit a knife like this or a hatchet head like this, or a bag or a pouch to hold different things. You can also add cool buttons and clasps like this. You can do cool stitching like my initials and the American flag right there. You can get cool leather stamps to make cool patterns like this to make it look like it's weaved. You can even get different colors of stitching like I have right here with black and green. So there's really just so many options with leather. As long as you get a piece of leather big enough, you can really make anything. And that's something I love about it. So you can get super creative as you think about things you can make out of leather and maybe how it could help you with your gear, with storage or anything like that when you're in the outdoors. One of the things that I'm gonna make here in the near future is just like a little pouch that's gonna hold some of my toiletries and first aid stuff. Just because I feel like that's a little unorganized for me right now. It's kind of just in random places, but it's usually stuff that I need often. So I think a little leather pouch could really help me organize that. So just that's one example of things you can make that are just awesome with the unlimited possibilities of leather. Another thing that I think is just super awesome and really fits in with bushcraft is just that leather is super easy to fix. When you're in the outdoors, it's super easy to snag something on a tree or trip and kind of scrape something and it breaks. Whether that's a strap that breaks or some cloth that rips, anything like that are all super likely to happen. And just the best thing about leather is that it is super easy to fix and mend. Something that I have that just gets a ton of use is this strap on my hatchet head. I've taken this hatchet out so many different times and popped this on and off, and I can see that it's starting to get some wear, and there's been some places that I've snagged it. So in the future, I might have to repair this strap. But the awesome thing is that it's super easy to do. Leather is super strong when it's sewn back together. One of the biggest problems that I found with like cloth stuff is that I'll get a tear in it and then it will just start to fray. And I'll try to sew it back together and my sews just kind of make it fray more and it's super hard to repair. With leather, you don't have that issue and it's just super easy to repair stuff, which is just awesome. And those are the big ones that I wanted to hit, but there really are just so many characteristics of leather that I love and I think it just make it super unique and just a super great skill. It makes super quiet stuff. It's not loud like plastic or metal. The possibilities of use really are just endless, and it just looks awesome. This just screams bushcraft and outdoors. When you've made different sheaths and different things out of leather, it just looks super awesome, and it's just super cool knowing you made it and that it will last a super long time. Leatherwork really just fits in the primitive and bushcraft mindset of making things last a long time, repairing them, not wasting or throwing away important things, and just being resourceful, which are all things that are really important to me and are reasons why I love leatherwork and really think that it just fits in with bushcraft. So that right there is really just our first major point, just the thing I really wanted to hit home of why leatherwork really fits in with bushcraft, why it's an important skill, and just the possibilities of all the things you can make with leather. Now I want to talk about just some leatherwork basics. I'm pretty new to leatherwork, and there are people that are way more experienced than I am, but it's a skill that I'm developing and I want to get better at, so I'm learning more and more every day. But I just wanted to share some of the basics, some of the things that got me into leatherwork, and just some of the important things that you should know if you want to get into leatherwork. There are so many tools and gadgets and things you see on the internet or online, anything like that, and it can be kind of overwhelming, so I'm just going to show you the couple tools that I have that help me get by and just the things that I've needed to do all the projects I've done so far. We're just going to kind of rapid fire through these, so if you have more questions or anything like that, leave a comment down below and I can answer it. And if any of the things you guys see today, if you're wondering more about it, comment down below and I can add it to my Amazon store so you guys can go check it out. So let's jump into the basics of leatherwork. And the first thing we're going to talk about, and maybe the most important thing when it comes to leatherwork, is leather. I can't remember if this one was Betsy or Bertha. Just kidding. I just bought my roll of leather from the store. But obviously having leather is vital for doing some leather work. And I'll just real quick go through the different kinds of leather. Leather is measured in thicknesses, in ounces. So like a 3 to 4 ounce leather, it's kind of a thinner leather. And then you get to like a 7 or 8 ounce and up to like a 9 or 10 ounce, and that's a little bit thicker. So what I have right here is a pretty thick leather. This is about a 7 or 8 ounce leather. And I just usually go with pretty thick stuff just because most of the stuff I make, I just want it to be strong and to last. But if you're getting into more fashion stuff, maybe you'd go for a smaller leather. But I usually just err on the side of doing a pretty thick leather. So that's the info about the leather itself. Now we're going to talk about some of the tools you'll use when you're doing leather work. First, we've got a knife, which will just help you cut the leather to the size and shape you want and can help trim edges or punch some holes. You've got hole punches like this that you can get with different spacing, but they're what your needle goes through to make your stitching. Then you've got your needles and your thread. You've got your rivet setter and your rivets. You've got button snaps. You've got different kinds and shapes of stamps. You've got a hammer or a mallet and some sandpaper for just sanding off the edges, which you can see mine is quite used. So those are all the tools I have, and you can pick them up on the cheap end for $30, $40, $50 depending on the quality of them. I got pretty cheap ones and they lasted me pretty good, so I think those are great options. Next thing we're going to talk about is ways to join leather. And the first one and most basic one, you guys can probably guess it, and that's going to be stitching. Stitching is probably the most basic and just a great way to hold pieces of leather together. And when it comes to stitching with leather work, we use a wax thread that's pretty thick, just because it's super strong, so it'll never break. You can see I stitched all the way around the outside of my knife sheath, and that's actually sandwiching 3 pieces of leather so that it's thick enough to hold my knife. And then I also just did some fun stuff with stitching in there to make an American flag. But there are tons of things you can do with stitching. And with stitching, I want to point out just the 2 major ways to stitch stuff. The first one is a saddle stitch, which is exactly what I have here, which this is probably the most basic kind of stitch, where you punch a bunch of holes and then you just go in and out of it. And this one's double, so I went over it so that every gap has one, but you don't necessarily have to do that. That's just the most basic kind of stitching and a great way to stitch like this for a sheath or just for times you're trying to sandwich 2 things together. It's a great way to do it. The other one is called a whip stitch, which this one's great for like pulling 2 things together. And this kind of stitch is kind of like the stitches when you get stitches in the hospital. If you have an open wound and you're trying to pull 2 pieces of skin together, that's very similar for what this stitch is, and it goes around it. So if you can see here, I did a whip stitch on this one. I did it double, so I did one way with black and then one way with green, but it just wraps around the leather. So one piece of string is going the same way the whole time, and it goes up through the hole and then wraps around the outside. And that's really when you can get that cinching effect. So those are the 2 kinds of stitching. They have different strengths and different uses, but they both look pretty awesome. The next way to fasten leather is just going to be simple buttons, just like this. And they work super well. You get some really strong ones, and you can add multiple like I did here. They're just super awesome, super durable, great way to put leather together. And then the last way to do it is a simple rivet. So right here on my knife sheath, I have a rivet, and that holds my strap together that wraps around my knife. Just holds it in there really good. doesn't ever come undone, and you can get them super strong. So more of a permanent solution, but works super well. So those are ways to fasten pieces of leather together. Next, we'll talk about just getting it to fit for your application. And the first one is simply just tracing it and cutting it. You can see on the back of my roll of leather, there's pen marks and stuff from times I traced things and when I was gonna cut stuff out. I think these times I messed up, so I did it somewhere else. But it's just super simple. Trace it, cut it out with a knife. But the other option is molding your leather, which to do this, it works best if you get your leather pretty wet in water, and then you just stretch it around whatever you need it to fit around. This works great for knife sheaths. Like on this one right here, you can see this leather is completely molded around the knife, and then it's sewn there at the bottom. Looks super nice and makes super snug fits. And lastly, we'll talk about finishing your leather, which this is really what just seals it, protects it, makes it really waterproof, and can get some cool finishes on it. And this is done just by wiping it over your finished product. And it can be done with lots of different things. You can use beeswax or different kinds of oils, or I love to use Caruba cream. I think this stuff just seals it super well and protects it, makes it more durable, makes it so it doesn't crack, and just gets a better finish on it. You can see right here I have a piece of leather that's unfinished, and then one right next to it that's had some Caruba cream on it. I think I've probably done it 2 or 3 times on this one, but you can see quite the difference in finish. So it's cool that it can be used to get it lighter or darker, just for whatever you like. So those are the basics of working on your leather. Like I said, there are so many different things you can do with leather, so many amazing projects out there that I've seen that I'm jealous of, and I want to get to the point where I can make really cool stuff. But you got to start somewhere with simple sheaths, simple bags, different things like that, and develop your skills as you go. Get new gadgets, get new tools to do different things, but you can start out pretty simply. The next thing I want to hit on is kind of looping it back to bushcraft, of how you can implement those skills and working on leather into bushcraft or when you're in the outdoors. I listed a lot of tools and things, and those are all things that I have at my home when I work on leather, but I don't take all those things with me when I'm in the outdoors. But I still want to be prepared to either fix leather if it's broken, or use leather to fasten some things, or just make cool projects out of leather when I'm in the outdoors. And there's honestly kind of one tool that can do pretty much everything, and that's going to be your knife. You can use your knife obviously to trim the leather if you need to make a piece to fix something, or you're making a project or trying to cut it to a certain length. A knife works great. You also saw that I had a bunch of hole punchers, and while they're super nice to have and they get super even spacing, if you're in the outdoors and you're trying to fix something, your knife can work as a great hole punch, just using the tip of the knife kind of going in there. It'll be enough that you can get some thread and a needle through just to fix it or fasten it up. I usually have some sort of sewing kit with me when I'm in the outdoors, because it's pretty important to have a needle. There's not like a ton that can replace a needle because it's pretty hard to pull thread through. But if you make your holes big enough, you could definitely go without a needle. And similarly with thread, I usually have some wax thread with me, similar to the stuff I use to make the leather work. In case I need to fix it, I know it'll work great. But if you're really in this situation of something's broken and you're trying to fix it, even something simply as paracord will work great. If you have rivets with you, you definitely don't need a rivet setter. Even something as simply as a nail can work to spread the metal out on your rivet and hold the 2 pieces of leather together. And I often use a hammer when I'm doing leather work, and that can simply be replaced with a rock or a log, anything like that, just to have some weight to pound down on something. So while there's a lot of tools you can have for leather work, you can also go pretty simply just to go out in the outdoors and be prepared to either fix something or create something with just a few tools. And before we wrap this video up and talking about leather work up and hit our last point, try to say leather together 10 times fast. You guys won't know it because I haven't left it in here when I edit the video, but I have had to re-say leather together so many different times. So try to say leather together 10 times fast. Leather together, leather together, leather together. It's pretty hard, so little test for you while you're watching the video. All right, now the last thing we're going to talk about is just some common safety or mistakes or anything like that when it comes to leather work. And I've honestly found that leather work is pretty forgiving. I'm not very good at it, but the things I've made have held up pretty good just because I put some effort in and tried to make them the best I can. But leather is just so durable that whatever you make is probably going to hold pretty well. But there are some common mistakes that you can make that I just want to point out so you can try to avoid them and stuff can last longer. The first one's going to be over soaking your leather. So obviously you can soak it in water to try to mold it, or oil, different things to protect it, but you don't want to over soak it because it can kind of make it mushy and it can lose some of its durability. The next one's not to like over stress or over pound rivets and buttons, because it can cause your leather to weaken or to tear if you put them too close to the edges, you pound them too far in, you don't set them right, anything like that. So making sure that you set it right, and along with that, making sure your stitches are tight and even can make it so it lasts quite a bit longer. And then the last one is just going to be really safe when you're working on leather work. A lot of it uses needles, which can poke you and stab you, or a knife. You want to make sure when you're cutting leather, you're cutting away from your body. Anytime you're using a knife, you want to be cutting away from your body, but especially while you're cutting leather, it can really bind and catch a knife and then slip, and you can launch a knife. So that's definitely not what we want to happen. When we're doing leather work and making cool things, we're trying to make stitches like this in leather, not trying to get stitches in our hands. So make sure to be careful when you're doing leather work, but I really want to stress just that the possibilities are endless, and I think leather work is just such a cool thing because you can make some amazing projects with just your own two hands and a few tools that'll really help you in the outdoors. So just like that, we went through the basics of bushcraft leather work, how it can be just an awesome skill and tool for you when you're in the outdoors to help you make gear that lasts a super long time, or fix things that are broken, or fasten things, anything like that. Leather work is just awesome. There really are so many possibilities of things you can make. You just got to get creative and put the work in to make some really cool things. I've talked about this knife sheath and this axe sheath that I made a lot in this video, but they're just two of my favorite things ever. I pretty much have this knife with me everywhere I go just because I'm super proud of it. It's super cool to be able to make something that lasts a super long time. But it's just super cool to be able to take something like a cowhide that I have and turn it into just a super cool thing that you can use in the outdoors, that helps you, and that just looks awesome. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed learning about it. And I hope that it motivated you to want to do some leather work. There really are just some incredible things you can do. And I just wanted to share it because it's one of my passions and just one of my favorite hobbies. It's just so fun to be able to do. Even if I'm like watching TV or something with my wife, I can be tracing things or cutting things out or sewing pieces of leather together and just be making some awesome stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions about the stuff I've used or you want to see more of it, comment down below. You can find most of the stuff on Amazon, but I also love the store Tandy Leather. If there's a Tandy Leather by you, I would 100% recommend going to check it out. Not sponsored, but I just love going there. I've always had super nice people, and they just have some awesome stuff. I even like to just go walk around there and see what they have, and it kind of sparks some ideas in my mind of things I can make, different things like that. So it's just awesome stuff. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. We're over 5,000 subscribers at the time of posting this video, which is just incredible. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that's subscribed and supports me. And if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 10,000 subscribers, and I'm just so grateful for the support. I love making these videos and plan to do it for many years to come. So grateful for all the supporters. I hope you enjoyed today's video, watching some leather work. I've got a couple projects that I want to do in leather work, so there'll be some videos coming out in the future and many more to come of cool leather work, bushcraft projects, anything like that. So I'm gonna go get working on some more cool projects, and you'll see them in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. If you liked this video, make sure to check out the Outdoor Cowboy YouTube channel. We've got new videos every week, survival adventures, camping projects, tool restorations, and a whole bunch more. Hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.